Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Bull City Coordinators Duke Football Coverage Podcast. You know where to find us, bullcitycoordinators.com. You know where we are on the socials. And we are here to talk with our old friend Steve Wiseman, who's going to get us ready for what to expect from the Blue Devils this season. And before we do that, Steve, two things I want to address with you. One, last time, I think maybe the last time you were on, or one of the last times you were on, you were bragging about your daughter, and you and I have stayed in touch. So I know you have a little bit more to brag about. So why don't you do that, and then tell us about your new job title or promotion or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Yeah, so let's start with Bailey. My daughter Bailey is now she passed the bar in North Carolina. She's a fully employed attorney now, working at Epperson Law Firm in Charlotte. Family law, handle all that stuff. All the you're shaking your head a little bit. I know you know what I'm talking about when it comes to family law.
Oh, God bless her. Like I told you, I hope she loves it, because if you don't love that type of work, it can get to you. But good for her for doing it, because there's a lot of work for it that needs to
Yes,
get done, and it needs good lawyers. So
absolutely.
more power to her.
And I appreciate you helping her out every once in a while when she's needed you. And so that's the great thing. Fully employed and launched, as they say in the parenting world, right? So proud of her. Um, Secondly, I have accepted a promotion at the News and Observer. I am now the sports editor of the News and Observer and the Durham Herald Sun. So that means you'll be seeing my byline a lot less in the paper. I'll be doing more of the behind the scenes stuff. But I will be. I am writing a weekly newsletter that we just launched last week, called Inside Sports, and it comes out to our subscribers. And it kind of highlights everything we've done. It comes out on Thursdays, has links to all the stuff we've done. I'll talk a little bit about what's coming up that weekend, maybe. The first one came out last Thursday. Next one is this week. So um, maybe it's good news, maybe it's bad news, but you're still going to see my writing. Some people may not like that. Hopefully, others will. But I'm excited about the change. I am no longer the paper's Duke beat writer. That changed this summer with this promotion. I am still fully versed on Duke football. I mean, that hasn't changed. Got to spend some time with Manny Diaz this summer, so I kind of know what's going on with the team there. So Chip Alexander will be covering Duke for us. Long time. He's covered everything there is to know at the NNO. He's been there since before. I think he covered Coach K's press conference. I think in May of 19, March of 1980. Yes, I'm not kidding. Chip is a veteran and one of the best sports writers the state's ever produced. So he'll do a great job on Duke. But I will be there a lot of times with him. I will, you know, he doesn't need my guidance, but I know things that Duke maybe he won't know, and I will make sure and pass that information on to him.
So where can we subscribe to your new column and newsletter? Where can we find that?
Yeah, if you go, it's newsobserver.com is our website. You can find access to it there. Or you can just email me at swiseman at newsobserver.com. And I'll be glad to send you a link on that. But if you're a subscriber to the NNO and you go to our website, newsobserver.com, there's a way, there's a lot of information for subscribers, and sign up for different newsletters we have. This Inside Sports is the latest one. You can get it there. But if you're not a subscriber, email me and I will forward you the latest edition, and then you can see what you're missing out and you can subscribe.
Well, excellent. We'll all have to do that. And while we are on the topic of getting inside information from you've been through this. I haven't. My son is 16. He'll be 17 this year. He's going to be this October. He is going to be a junior in high school. So this is apparently college tour season.
Yes.
One of the many things I did not experience, but apparently kids get.
Yes.
Um,
I didn't either, but yes.
right. So I might need some advice from you. I will tell you this story. I will brag on him, because usually when I mention him, it's to tell something embarrassing about him. But he's getting a lot of leaflets, a lot of mailings from colleges, right? One came in the mail randomly, like one Friday a couple of months ago, and I got it out of the mail and I looked at it. It was from Rice. And I went and found him and I said, "This is for you. You need to take it. You should look at this." And he's like, "Oh yeah, whatever. It's just another college thing." I said, "No, no, 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 no,
Uh-huh.
son, no. Go look up Rice. You're going to apply to go there. I'm not saying you have to go, but if you get a letter from Rice, you're going to apply."
Absolutely.
He didn't know anything about Rice, so he looked it up and was checking it out. But I was very, I was really proud of him when he got that mailing, and we'll see what happens. He's taking the SAT. Today's July 31. This will post in August, so he's going to take it later this month, and we'll see
Okay.
how he does. But any advice you got for me about college tours? I mean, what other than make sure he goes in state and affordable? What do you got? What do you got for me?
Yeah, man. Um, Ri- Rice is a good pick. I mean, we know the reputation of that school, so not in state but
Not
incredible.
affordable either.
Well, I'll let you decide that, but but yeah, it's not probably not on the affordable side of when you look at the ledger there, but it's worth it for the education, as we know sometimes. So, yeah, I remember going on a couple of visits. I went to William and Mary with Bailey when she went up there. She ended up going to NC State for undergrad, so that was close to home. Um, you know, I pointed out where the library was. There's the library, there's the gym. Um, you know, not the places maybe I should have gone more when I was an undergrad. So I tried to learn about that. It's hard to you know, let it go and say, okay, um, you're on your own, and it's hard not to want to walk that walk right with them the whole time. You know what I mean? And but you got to let it go. You got to let them learn, and sometimes you got to let them learn the hard way, and it's tough. And you know that from just this part of parenting so far. I know you do, but when you let it when they're out the house and they're in the dorm and everything, okay, this is your space. Go have at it. So, but I remember asking a lot of questions on the campus visits for sure. My wife went to Tennessee. Can I tell you a funny story about Tennessee
Oh
real quick?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
She went to visit. She thought she wanted to study anthropology, which she ended up getting an undergrad in anthropology. But Tennessee has a body farm on their campus. Yeah, it's what you think it is, an FBI body farm. And to study, that, right? Forensic science, everything. Um, so my daughter was really keen on, Tennessee, they have this body farm. And she gets over there, and the sign that says "Welcome to the University of Tennessee" was all covered with moss. It was dirty. It wasn't the cobwebs, and she said, "I'm done here." And my wife was like, "What are you talking about? We came all the way over here." No, if they can't take care of their sign, they're not going to take care of me. Tennessee was off the list. I was like, okay, well, that's a new one. So cleanliness is next to godliness, to say, right? So,
Well, yeah, I mean that's a level of depth I'm not really expecting from my son. So we'll but he really wants to go to UVA. He's wanted to go to UVA for a long time. I don't know intellectually how I'll process that. I was back in my hometown not long ago. I was hanging out with my old friend Greg, who's a big Clemson fan. And I was telling him, being close to Tech, it's easy to root for the Hokies because you want that blue collar edge to your football team.
yeah,
And he said, exactly. And I said, UVA does not have that. I mean, they don't have it. They don't have it. Duke has it because they're the scrappy underdog. Yeah, I mean, I know Nina King is treating the program differently from how it had been treated for a long time, but there's still a scrappy underdog.
yes,
Intellectually, what I'm trying to get at is if he goes to UVA, I don't know how I'm gonna process that if he gets in. There's some steps there, but that would be a challenging one for me to process.
he's going to bring the grit, because grit is good, and you've climbed your way up, you've made it in the world. I'm sure your son has all the grit that helped to get you to where you are, and he will bring that to UVA.
Well, he's going to actually work. He's going to put in some grit, if that's the right way to phrase it, this weekend. Because while I was bragging on him earlier, I'll tell this story. Um, I don't know if this was your experience with Bailey, but I feel like they put too much pressure on kids in high school to take AP courses, and he's
Yes.
taken way too many courses. And so in summertime, he just wants to hang out, he wants to have fun, he wants to relax. And so it's SAT prep time. Again, a concept that I didn't know anything about, but whatever. And so we're like, hey, you need to be home by a certain hour one night. And he's texting me, begging me, no, let me just stay out a little longer, blah, blah. And I got tired of responding.
Yeah.
So then I see a message from him come in that says, okay, I'll stay out for another hour. And I didn't reply because I just said in my mind, I want to see how this plays itself out. So I check the app and I get up next morning. Sure enough, he stayed out the extra hour. We had a little talk. But this weekend, we're moving. Well, not this weekend, probably next couple of weeks, we're going to move law offices. I think it's 2 weekends from now. We're moving to a new building.
Cool.
So I said, Mac, do you want to work off some of your prison sentence? And he says, yeah. I said, well, you're going to come box up some stuff. So he's going to do that this weekend. He's going to knock some things out, take some pressure off our staff. He did ask today, though. He said, am I getting paid for this work this weekend? I said, absolutely not. No, no, you're not, son. You're not.
You're earning back your freedom by this sweat equity type work. So
He's in a work release program.
yeah,
Absolutely.
there you go.
Speaking of sweat equity, let's talk about the Blue Devils and the inappropriately named fall camp that's going on right now. I don't know about that, but what do you get the sense the vibe is for this team as far as how they are feeling coming into this season? Is it like everything I've read about it kind of makes me feel like these guys feel similar to the way the team felt coming into the 2013 season. They've won games. They know how to win games. They know what it takes to finish. There's some turnover there. What's the mood, overall vibe of the team, do you think, right now?
They're very confident because they played so well last year and they won so many close games. They felt like they outworked other teams. Back to the grit we just talked about. Um, the fourth quarter, the David Feely, they call it take dragon teams to the sewer. They feel like if they get to the fourth quarter, they're the better team. And that's not always been the case at Duke. And so they've really done it the last 3 years. Feely's been there since Elko came and he's stuck around, which is fantastic for the program. So that work they do in the off season, everything, it just builds on top of it one season after another. And so, yes, I think it's very similar. You're right, to the 2013 team that had a lot of players back, a lot of talent, a lot of high expectations, but yet there's still that chip because it's still Duke. And are they really good or are they just kind of Duke good? Right? No, that's it. And they went 9-3 last year. The 2012 team you're referring to, had made the bowl game the first time since '94. They broke through all this stuff, but they still had a losing record, so they still had some stuff to do. And so this team at 9-3, 9-4 with the bowl loss, still has a lot to prove as well. And so they have the chip, but they have a lot of confidence, and I know they feel good about their quarterback. And I know we could talk a lot about Darian Minsa, but they think that the offense can be elevated to a level it wasn't last year, and which is why Duke did what they did with the quarterback change. And they feel like there's enough back on defense that they're going into this season. They have a surprisingly tough non-conference schedule. Like when it was all set up, you didn't think it would be, and I know we'll talk about that more too. But going 9-3 with this schedule is going to be a little more difficult maybe than last year. But if they do it, and they think they can, they think it'll get them ranked. It'll get them the kind of national recognition that they think they should have earned last year. So there's a lot of that going on and a lot of proving it still, but they feel confident in what they're doing. There's no doubt about that.
It was really weird that team was never ranked at all last year. That's one of those flukes that's hard to explain. But you mentioned the quarterback, Mensa. Is he, again, everything I've seen, he looks like it's more than just I can't remember what conference they're in. I was about to say the wrong thing. I was about to say Conference USA. You can see where my mind is, but I know that's not
Yeah,
right.
American.
Yeah,
Used to be CUSA. Yes, you're right.
right. Some weird habits never die. But is it that he's just American good, or is he legit good? And we're about to see something, maybe what this offense could do with a different quarterback. And again, we could talk a long time about the business of college football, how different it is probably from when you started out covering things, and even when I was growing up. But what should we expect from the quarterback position for the Blue Devils?
So I think there's a lot more opportunity for dynamic plays than what we saw last year with Malik Murphy. And that's not a knock on Murphy. He threw 26 touchdown passes. So he set the school record. That's in the record books, man. He did it and led him to that 9-4 season, 9-3, because he didn't play in the bowl game. But Mensah could do so much more with his feet, escapability in the pocket, design runs. I mean, Malik, for all his that cannon of an arm he had, was a statue back there, right? He never tucked the ball down and ran very much. So that opens up a lot of different avenues for things to happen. And I would say Mensah's he's closer to Riley Leonard than Malik Murphy, right? Riley would do that with the running and everything. So I think that's the difference we're going to see in him as a quarterback. And he went to media day in Charlotte, for the kickoff thing, and represented the program there and represented it well. He's really cool to talk to, and he, I've heard from people within the program how well he fits Duke's culture, and that's important. And sometimes transfer portal, it's kind of like speed dating, and they get here and then maybe they're not what they thought they were. But that's not what I'm hearing about Mensah. Is he really fits in? He's been impressive in the weight room and leadership type stuff for somebody who just got here and is only a redshirt sophomore. So that's what I think we're going to see from him.
What are some other positions that we should expect maybe a surprise from, either units or individual players? What might shock some folks, or people say, wow, that was better maybe than what we expected?
So if Duke wants to do what they want to do, it better be wide receiver. Because we know what they lost from last year, right? Eli and Jordan Moore, Eli Pankel and Jordan Moore, and Samir Hagens is back, and Krayshawn Brown is back, and Samir's got to prove some stuff, right? He was really good a couple of years ago. Second half of 2022, I think it was. He played pretty well that first year of Elko, and he's kind of plateaued since then, right? He hasn't really elevated. So I think there's an opportunity there for him to do it. And then, of course, the transfers that got in, Cooper Baracati from Harvard. Some things about him. He's not a guy that was really smart and can just play football a little bit at Harvard. He's a pretty good player. And so that may be a surprise we're going to look at too. Andrell Anthony, the guy from Oklahoma, he started out at Michigan, then he was in Oklahoma, and he's one of those guys that, again, that has to prove he can do it consistently and be an every down, home run type receiver. And so that could be there's a lot of, it looks like there's a lot of talent there. There's some experience with Hagens and Baracati from Harvard, but that they could be really good. And if Mensah can raise his completion percentage, the team's completion percentage 5%, 7% from what Murphy did last year, I mean, that's really going to make a difference. And those guys have to help him by doing that, by making the catches. So that's where the surprise could be, because there's so much that was lost from last year. People don't know what to expect, right? So the surprise could be really, really good.
Yeah, that was something Connor O'Neill and I debated, friendly, but we debated it because, and you know this from covering that team for a long time, guys like Jordan Moore and Eli Pankel, A, don't come in very often, and B, don't come into the school at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the part that really has me kind of worried or maybe nervous is how do you replace two cornerstone players like that? Look no
I mean,
further than the Virginia Tech game with what Pankel could do. And so
yes.
that's one of those things. The tight end position, though, looks good. We have depth at defensive line. Is that fact check coming back true? It's odd to me as a long
Looks like it.
suffering Duke fan. And the secondary and linebackers look real good. So, I mean, there's plenty of room for optimism there, right?
Yeah, I mean, as we're sitting here taping this today, the All ACC, the preseason All ACC team came out a couple hours ago, and Duke has two defensive players on there, Chandler Rivers and Terry Moore. Um, that doesn't happen very often at Duke, does it? You know that as well as I do. So that's a great place to start. Is on those two key guys in your secondary. You got a shutdown corner in Chandler Rivers, and you've got a playmaking, safety in the middle, and Terry Moore, who's done just a hell of a job adjusting to, from being an offensive player. We almost forget he was a running back anymore. He's so good at safety and making plays. So, yeah, the defense looks like it has some depth. It's got some playmakers there. Trey Freeman's back in the middle of the defense, the linebacker. You got three starters back on your defensive front. Wesley Williams and VJ Anthony and Aaron Hall. They brought in Josiah Green, transfer. So you got guys behind them, Preston Watson, Bryce Davis, the great recruit, one of the best recruits Duke's ever gotten, defensive end from Greensboro, who Clemson really wanted. He chose to come to Duke. So he'll get a chance to play early. So that's that depth you're talking about up front, which I guess it's become a thing now. Duke's had this for 3 or 4 years now, haven't
Right.
So,
no, I mean, really,
yeah.
you look at probably towards the end of the Cutcliffe era, he had gotten stability at that position. He wasn't getting as much out of it because that's what happens with coaches who stay around for a long time a lot. But there's been depth there for a while, and we haven't even talked about Bradley Gompers yet.
Right. That's right. So you've got a lot of players there that can have opportunities to make plays. And we know in this defense that there's going to be opportunities for tackles for loss and sacks. And that's what this defense produces. We saw it last year, the first year Manny Diaz was here, and it worked out. So they're going to have the depth to keep fresh people on the field. And so again, it goes back to that fourth quarter, taking them through the sewer and all that. So yeah, they've got a lot of depth here. And should be really, really good to watch. And the depth may get tested early. Terry Moore still dealing with something he dealt with he got hurt in the bowl game. And so we'll see if he's ready for the start of the season. That might be something to watch out for. But that depth in secondary may be tested early, especially when Illinois comes in the second week. But we'll see. Anyway, the point is they do have a lot of depth this year. They've done a good job. And then great recruiting class this year in the 30s. That doesn't happen at Duke ever. And so they brought in a lot of guys that can help right away.
Well, and I'm still hoping that Jake Taylor is going to have a couple of breakout games because he played, I think, sooner last year than they expected, but he started to get better as the season went on. And having, I think, accidentally said something that ticked off his father on a forum once that it was a context thing that I had to elaborate on and explain that it wasn't about Jake. It was just about depth in general at Duke. So if that was Jake's father and you're listening, I apologize. I was not trying to say anything negative about Jake at all. So, but I thought he really did play incredibly well as the season went on, given how he was kind of plopped in there unexpectedly, especially.
I mean, the injuries to that position, that it was that Northwestern game, man, early in the year they lost, but yeah, we thought Nicky Dalmola was going to be, it was, kind of manna from heaven coming back and playing again. And then he got hurt. Jeremiah Hazley got hurt. There's Jake forced into play. So he kind of had a little battlefield promotion there. And he did well. He did well in the situation. And I would expect more from him this year. So yes, another weapon they have. And again, it speaks to the depth and the conditioning that they've built on this team. They can survive all those injuries, that especially that one position they were down. Jake was the only tight end they had left.
Right.
They had to convert um, Boggs from offensive line to play. So
And it's a
crazy.
lot. It's a lot to ask, you know, backups to come in and play at the level of the ones and the twos, because you're not a one or a two for a reason. And it's not a
Right.
negative thing. It's just you may not be there yet. And so if you were as good as the one or the two, you'd already be playing or you'd be somewhere else. So,
Right.
there, especially at a place like Duke, which historically has not had depth, uh, or the kind of depth that you want, it's asking a lot for someone to jump in. But I thought, he got a couple of games under his belt. He played well. I can't remember. There was a game towards the end of the season where he had like 4 or 5 catches, and I thought he was coming along. So I hope we see more of it. But what about Gompers? Is he going to play much this year, or what's the vibe coming? I mean, do we think that we'll see him making a difference? Because I think he played some tight end in high school as well, in addition to linebacker.
Yeah. I think he'll get opportunities at both of them. We'll see how the camp goes here and the scrimmages and all that. But he's an impressive athlete, and so I think there will be an opportunity for him. Um, particularly at linebacker, where you got Nick Morris and Trey Freeman, and you got Kendall Johnson behind him, and um, you need somebody to step in there and make some plays. So I think he may have that opportunity.
And speaking of somebody that will be, or speaking of making plays, we haven't said a whole lot about the O line, and that's exactly what you want in a season preview podcast. If you're talking about the O line, there's usually a problem, but these guys seem pretty good. They seem to get better as the year went on, and there does seem to be. I've heard rumors of depth at that unit as well. What should we be thinking about the O line?
So the fact you have 4 starters back is incredible. And again, keep going back to not this last spring, but the first spring Manny was here when they couldn't have full practices because they didn't have enough offensive linemen to play. The spring game wasn't really a spring game because they didn't have enough offensive guys hurt, guys transferring in and out. Exact opposite situation this year. You have 4 starters back; they're all healthy. Bruno Fina, Matt Craycraft, Brian Parker is looking like he's going to play on Sundays, when he's done at Duke. So got that going on. Justin Pickett is experienced at guard. Craycraft's back at center, so that's taken care of. Um, they had to bring in a transfer from South Dakota, Jordan Lawson, um, to help out there. So that's somebody they got after the spring. So he'll have to fit in, but 4 out of 5, you're ready to go. And um, when you got a quarterback like Mensa that can do things with his feet, give him the protection to complete passes downfield. We haven't got to the running backs yet, but they're going to be strong at running back, right? With Moore and Peyton Jones. I mean, if offensive linemen get forgotten because they're kind of the guys down in the trenches, but they're everything. If you don't have a good offensive line, forget it. And so Duke should have a really good offensive line this year, a really good offensive line, and that's going to be the key to everything.
And I mean, it was the same thing, that magical run from 12 to 15. The O line was healthy and the O line stayed. And there were some real good players. I think 3 of those guys made it to the NFL.
Yeah,
Skura, the guy in Green Bay, whose name I'm spacing on, and I apologize. And there was another one.
Lincoln Tomlinson was on those teams.
Right. He was a first round draft pick, too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
You're right. I'm forgetting that. I'm sorry. I'm blanking on the name too.
and he's still playing, and it's driving me nuts. But
Yes, I can see his face.
I'm so yeah.
He married the tennis player from Duke too. I know all about it.
We apologize, both of us. But
For being old. I'm
that's
sorry.
yeah, and that kind of was what goes back to that 2012-13 kind of transition, is these guys know how to do it. And I'm not going to say that we're going to have the same season that we had that year, because let's segue into the schedule. After 3 games, game 4 is going to be the start of a long stretch of conference games.
Yes.
We play Illinois at home on September 6th. That's the second game. But You usually think that Big Ten game would be make or break for the Blue Devils. I'm not so sure that it will be, and we can talk about that here. But let's go through the first three games before we get into conference. Elon at home, Illinois at home, and then on the road to Tulane. What are your thoughts there, other than that September 6th game is going to be huge?
It is. Let me first say I did do a quick search. Lucas Patrick is the guy we're thinking about. Lucas.
Please
So
accept our apologies, Mr.
yes, I
Patrick.
couldn't let that go. I had to. But yes. So the start of the schedule, obviously, cool to start out with Elon. Get a home game under your belt. Get that one out of the way and get started and everything. But you're right. The Illinois game, noon game on ABC. I think when the schedule was made, they did this years ago, right? Art Chase did it years ago. Now he's down at the Citadel. Art is, but nobody thought this was going to be a battle of two teams that won, like they did last year, and Illinois was going to be a top 15 team probably coming in here off of the season they had, and the guys they have back. So that's going to be a great test for Duke early. And you talk about being unranked and everything. If you win that one, you're going to be ranked. I think you can bet on that. So based off of what you did last year, so there's your opportunity to jump in the top 25. And then of course the Tulane game is special because Darian Mintz is going back to his old school, and it looked like Tulane just got a new quarterback here like a couple of weeks ago. That looked like it was going to be maybe a not such a tough game because they were so messed up at the quarterback situation, and now they're not. So that makes it even tougher. And it's going to be a Saturday night in uptown New Orleans, and it's going to be a wild time. It's not Mardi Gras season down there. That's in earlier in the year, but it's going to be a fun atmosphere. And they're it's going to be tough for Darian to go in there, right? And so you 12-game season, so every 3 games is like a quarter, of the season, and you want to be 3-0. I think if you come out of that 2-1, you've probably done okay, because the Tulane game is sneaky tough, and we'll talk about the UConn game later on. That's sneaky tough too. People don't think about that, but we know how close UConn came to beating Duke at home last year, and Jim Moore Jr. has done a pretty good job. So, really interesting start of the season, and Duke will get their chance on national TV on ABC in that second game to show, okay, we're on our home field. We got a ranked team coming in here. Won 9 games last year. Didn't get the attention we thought we should have gotten. This is a chance right here. This is if the defense is going to do what they're going to do, and Mensa gets a chance to show off against a Big Ten defense. This is the shot, and so it's right there for you. That's a great opportunity to have.
And then after the game against Tulane, playing NC State at home, I think Dave Doran, I think we all kind of see where that's going. He could surprise us if the law of the wolf holds true.
Mm-hmm.
This could be a good year for State. We'll see. But then after that, this is where it gets tricky because we've combined the Big East with the Pac-12 to some extent, and then we have the quote ACC end quote, or as I call it, the All Coast Conference, trademark, patent pending, registered.
Yeah.
This is where it gets tricky. If I'm going to play Syracuse, I do not want to go into that dome. That place is haunted. Bad things, crazy things happen. Talk to any of the Hokie fans that I know, Blacksburg Chris, you know what I'm talking about. Then we got to go on the road to Cal, then a bye week, and then what is looking like a really good Georgia Tech team. That one, well, granted, we get them at home, but they gave us the business in the second half last year. And I expect them to be good this year. Then you get another bye week, and then I got to just say this. I just got to say this. Okay. My brother-in-law is getting married this year, and I will let you guess what day he is getting married on.
Oh, no.
To what part we are in the schedule. This is problematic because my boy Greg texted me and he said, "Hey man, it was great seeing you at the reunion. Let's catch up. We lost touch. Let's stay in touch." I was like, "Absolutely, Greg." Greg texts me and then he says, "I got extra tickets to the Clemson Duke game." I said, "Okay, let me just check with my wife, clear it." Nope, can't go.
Wedding.
Got to go to DC. Yeah.
He almost landed on the bye week, but I mean, there's something to be said at people planning weddings in October and football season. But anyway.
Look, man, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I haven't been to a game at Memorial Stadium in decades. It's been a
Oh,
long time, and certainly not since it got big. I mean, when I was there, when I was growing up there, Danny Ford, then the end of the Danny Ford years, Hatfield, Tommy West, all that stuff, and then I
yeah,
left town. Right, but right
yeah.
when Bowden had come in was like my last year or two there. So it wasn't crazy like it is now. I'm giving up a lot. I just want to mention that, but
Okay.
just I'm giving up
We
a
all feel
lot.
we feel for you. That's a toughie. That's a toughie.
Okay,
I
I
went
know.
down there when Daniel Jones his last year, and when Duke went down there, and that's the last time I was at Death Valley. So um, Duke played them tight in the first half, and that was when Clemson was national championship level Clemson.
Game ended in the first quarter when we were up 6-0. That's how I
Yeah, and
remember it.
couldn't. There
Lightning
you
strike. It was a forfeit. Tiebreaker rules went to Clemson. That's what I
Nothing else
remember.
happened from that point forward.
And that's
But
certainly not the injuries. But
yeah, but no, the schedule. You talk about schedule, and
that 4 game stretch is brutal, even with the 2 bye weeks. I
yeah,
mean,
it
that
is.
is a brutal stretch. I mean, what are you thinking as we look ahead in July, August to September and into November?
So, first of all, NC State. Uh, Everything's going to hinge on what happens against East Carolina in their opener for them. It's really, you hate to put too much emphasis on one game for them, but I think that's so important because the way last season ended, when they lost to East Carolina in the bowl game and they had the brawl, and they're all talking about that and how embarrassed they were with the way they played and the way they acted. Um, they have to go out and they have to play really well and win and place, but if something happens and they don't, when last year they opened with Western Carolina and they struggled to beat them, and that kind of set the tone. We knew what they were. We knew there was something was wrong there, and it never really got better. So that can't happen again for Dave Doran. He's going to be out of a job. So if things go poorly against East Carolina when they come to Duke, okay, that's a different team then if they go out there and they whip East Carolina, which they want to, then okay, then that's a tougher game for Duke. So that's when we're kind of hinging on what's going to happen early in the year there. Syracuse is coming off a great season last year. Fran Brown's done a good job up there. Um, don't have the same quarterback as he did last year. That was a lot of what made him so good. But you're right. That Clemson's had trouble winning up at the Dome up there. I mean, so this isn't like it's a difficult place to go play. And it's still early in the season when they have some momentum from last year. There's a lot of interest in that program that wasn't there in maybe 5 years ago. So it's going to be a tough one to play. And then, you go across country to Cal. Cal's not very good. They're picked at the bottom half of the league. So, of all those ones in there, that looks like the easiest one, but it's also like the cross country trip when you have to travel on like a Thursday, probably.
Exactly. That's going to be rough. You got to go up to Syracuse and then out to Cal.
Yeah. Yeah. Back to back trips like that. You get the bye week before Georgia Tech, which is cool because Georgia Tech's been a tough team for Duke. They've been very difficult for Duke to beat in recent years here. So you're going to need that. And then you get to recover and you have the bye week going into Clemson. So I'm sure that Manny Diaz would rather have one of those bye weeks than like early November, like after, so they're not kind of squeezed together. But if it's going to be between those two games, that's kind of where you want it. You certainly want it going into Clemson. You certainly want that. And so you'll take it going into Georgia Tech Duke because they've been hard on you. But that's a make or break stretch for Duke right there. If, it's 4 games there we're talking about, if they
Right.
1-3 or 2-2, I mean, that's, then you're looking at maybe a 7-5 season, right? If you're at best. But they've got to get through that. They got to get through it healthy, and this depth we talk about will be certainly tested during that time because you're right. The travel is brutal. The back to back, the Syracuse and Cal.
The games that I see closing out those last 4, though, UVA, that we're going to go a little bit out of order. We're going to come back to the UConn game, which is sandwiched in between Clemson and UVA. So UVA on the road at Carolina, at home at Wake. So your last 3, 2 of them are at home. I feel like the Blue Devils win two, if not three of those, if we're looking at it today.
Mhm.
Those three, I'm not too terribly worried about. UVA looks like a mess. Wake is, I don't think, going to be used to playing a team quite like Duke, even though it's going to be late in the year. But given where Wake is right now, I think you have to take Duke. And as far as the Carolina game, I know it's on the road, but I just, again, looking at it today, I don't feel like Carolina is going to be able to beat the Blue Devils. But that's now. We'll see what I'm thinking in November.
Right.
That UConn game, you mentioned it earlier, is sneaky tough. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, I went up there 2 years ago, Riley Leonard's last year, Elko's last year, and Duke just ran him off the field. And it happened to be the day that Cooper Flagg was visiting UConn's campus. Just I'll mention that. And they brought him to the game, I think, which is off campus in East Hartford. But so point is, the difference the two programs there was like a stark difference. But then last year, just 1 year later, UConn should have beaten Duke last year at Wallace Wade. Duke had to come back in the fourth quarter and win, and that was one of the many close games that they won last year, which allowed them to be 9-3. But that's how quickly UConn closed the gap. And Jim Moore Jr. did that, and so they were a lot better team last year than they were the year before, no question about it. So going up there in November, it's a weird time to have a non-conference game, you know. It's not like the atmosphere is going to be difficult. This isn't, this the games in East Hartford are, kind of friends and family kind of thing. So there's not a lot of, by then basketball will have started and everything, but so that's not a problem, but it's just the timing of it. And that UConn is a better team than they've been when this schedule was set up again, looked like an easy win, and they've gotten better very quickly when they hired an NFL coach. It's funny how that works out. So that again, that's you look at the schedules and you look at the 4 non-conference games and you always say, boy, you got to get 3 or 4 non-conference if you're going to, then win 5 or 6 league games and you got 9 wins. But not this year. It's going to be work to get the 3 non-conference wins, because you look at 2 games that you think you're playing down when you're playing UConn and Tulane, but they're both on the road and they're going to be difficult for different reasons. So that UConn game is a swing game for Duke as well.
That one I'm worried about, because I did say, and I think I mentioned this before, that I felt like Jim Mora was out coaching Diaz in that game. But I think what we saw was Diaz had a very specific way of how he was going to win those games.
Mm-hmm.
And it was going to be, we're going to keep it close, then we're just going to wear you down in the fourth. And so that was a little earlier, and I don't think we quite appreciated that. So I'm going to take that offhand comment back. I'm going to issue an apology. But Jim Moore is a good coach. I know people that will disagree with me about this, but I actually do think Jim Moore is a good coach. He did pretty well at UCLA. And I think, I'm not so sure UCLA's really gotten better without him there. Talk about that for a while. And then what happened to him in Atlanta was not really on him. So we'll deal with that later. That's a game, though, that I am worried about. But on the whole, I think a bowl game should definitely happen this year. How far above that 7-win mark? I mean, I think it's going to depend. Is something crazy going to happen at Syracuse? How are we going to handle the road trips, those big road trips, those, for weeks 5 and 6?
Mm-hmm.
And then if you got to close out strong, but if they close out those last 3-4 games strong and they go 2-2 during that stretch, it could be a real good season.
And you're right that the back end isn't as difficult as that middle. That middle is really tough. And, because Wake has got a new coach, they're rebuilding, and they're not, they don't look like a team that's going to push much this year. They're maybe a year away from really scaring people. Virginia's a mess right now. This may be it for Tony Elliott. We'll see. And the Carolina game is, the toss up that it always is. And, Duke's going to be able to match up with them pretty well athletically, which is not something you say very often. But we don't know what Belichick's schemes are going to look like. We know what they were in the NFL. Obviously, he coached defense. He can coach the hell out of defense. There's no question. They have to be better defensively, I would think, just from running his schemes
stepping over a low bar.
I know. And last year, remember, it was 20-0 at halftime, and Duke had to pull that out. And that kind of, that was that that was part of that. Keep it close and win it in the fourth quarter, and pull people through the sewer kind of thing, right? With David Feely. So but you're right. The back end there are some wins there, and I think I have no idea what Carolina's going to be like this year. I really don't. But I don't see them being like an 8 or 9 win team. Even though Belichick's their coach, um, the quarterback they had to bring in from South Alabama at kind of the last minute. They had some really good defensive players transfer out. So I just don't know what to think about them. So it's hard for me to sit here right now and say, Duke's going to be favored or not. But and it's the rivalry game anyway. But again, that's one of those. There's 4 or 5 different swing games, and the Carolina game is definitely one of them. Wake Forest shouldn't be. Virginia shouldn't be. Carolina's going to be a swing game.
And looking at the Tar Heels schedule, not talk too much about them. TCU, Charlotte, Richmond, UCF, Clemson. Boy, that's going to be a heck of a game. Cal, UVA, Syracuse, Stanford, Wake, Duke, and then NC State. That schedule lines up, I think, well for Carolina.
It does.
But I think we're going to be in a different position at that point of the year by playing tougher teams and a tougher schedule. But that's what I'm saying today. We'll see what we both think later on.
Right.
2 things I want to close out on you with. I will give you an open mic as always, but I have to ask you about this. The men's basketball team. You mentioned Cooper Flagg. You host a wonderful podcast, co-host it with Sheldon Williams, the Believe in Duke podcast. It's excellent. I listen to it regularly. I'm trying to think of a very delicate way to ask this. What the hell happened at the end of the game against Houston? Because it seemed like John Shire, and this is coming from a place of respect, please take it that way, picked the absolute worst time to coach the worst game of his career. And again, it's year 3, and he's already in a national semifinal. But it seemed like he didn't utilize the right lineups at the end of the game. There was a unit with Foster that kind of energized the team, and I don't think we saw it again. And I didn't get a good enough look at the inbounds plays because you're watching on TV and I'm not seeing any film, so I can't really comment on that. But something wasn't working. And I mean, just what the hell happened at the end of that game?
It was just a cascading cacophony of like every little error you can make at the wrong time happened right in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4. They were up by 7 points. They were up at 7 points with less than a minute to go. Give it a 3-pointer because there was a missed switch on defense. Left the guy open for a 3-pointer. Then you can't get the ball inbounds. Then Proctor misses the front end of 1-on-1. But they couldn't get, the biggest thing was they couldn't get any stops down the stretch. Houston should not have been able to score one after the other. Duke was such a good defensive team last year. But just utter failure right at the very end of the game. It was just, it's one of the most stunning things I've ever seen.
They looked gassed. Those 5 guys just looked gassed. And I mean, Proctor had not been shooting free throws well for a couple of games. I mean, was it just that they were tired and Shire wasn't sure what to do? I mean, was it just one of those things where the bag broke and everything fell out?
Yeah, because if you remember, they were up by 14 or whatever, and then Houston got it down. I forget the exact things here, but 2 or 3 minutes to go, and Flagg made a shot, pushed it back up to 7 or 9 points with like about 2 minutes to go, and you thought that's it, that's the kill shot, that's going to do this. So they were struggling to score, and he stuck a jumper, and like, okay, now they can just ride it out from here. I think they thought that because that's what they'd done to teams all year, and they got that point. It was done, and they faced a veteran team that did not quit. And so all power to them, to Houston and all that. But it took, again, all the errors down the stretch. And I just think that Duke thought, okay, we have this. This is what we've done to teams all year. Some teams have pushed us. we get to the end and we get a shot. We're up by this many points with this much time to go. They hadn't lost one. They finished it off. So because the games they'd lost earlier, they'd kind of been behind and they missed some plays down the stretch too. Clemson and Kentucky and Kansas, I'm thinking about. But at that point in the game, I just thought they'd done what they'd done to teams, and they thought they had them in the bag, and um, really
Yeah.
bad, really bad. I don't know what to say. It
No,
was
they're up.
stunning.
Yeah.
Matthew Watts didn't have a rebound the whole game. I mean, you can go back to that. Like that's hard to believe, but it happened. And that would have made a difference. Obviously, he was getting pushed around some because Houston was big and tough.
Yeah, they're up 9 with just over 3 to go. They're up 7 with just over 2 to go. And honestly, I had texted Joe Giglio this at the beginning of the season. I said, this Duke team is giving me 98, 99 vibes.
Yeah,
And that is kind of how I felt like it ended.
yeah.
It was just similar with a game that could have been won. I don't want to say Shire got out coached in that game. I don't want to take anything away from Kelvin Sampson. I just thought that the team was gassed. I mean, they were gassed. And I just felt like all of people, don't at me, people, for this, but Coach K, great coach, but his way of doing things worked perfectly a lot of times, but there were times where he needed to adjust. And we all know that I'm talking about using the bench. There were a lot of years where K had a very talented bench and he used 6, 7 guys.
Yep.
And I felt like all those, and early on in K's career, you will remember they struggled mightily getting the ball in bounds. I mean, my father would still probably have nightmares about that. I just remember that a lot as a kid. And I just felt like all those worst instinct, bad things just all came back at once. And it really felt like that 98, 99 game, championship game all over again. I mean, it was
Because
just,
they've been so dominant all year
I don't know.
long, and you're getting ready to finish off a really special season, right? Just like '99, they hadn't lost since November or whatever it was, right? 37-2 going to that game, and yeah, it did feel like that. You're right. That's a very good analogy there, because that's it. It's whew.
We were up by a point. They were up by a point with 25 seconds to go. I'm looking through the play-by-play right now. Oh my
I
God.
remember when Houston got a technical foul for reaching across. Remember that happened, and they went down and split the free throws. I think it was so didn't.
Right.
And then Khan didn't. They got the ball back. They get free throws and the ball. And that's when I thought, well, this is really over. I'm writing my story as it's going on. I thought the game was over. I was paying attention, but I thought, well, let's get inbound the ball here and go down and score. And then they did inbound the ball, but that's when Khan got to the rim and got blocked and didn't score. Didn't finish.
Yeah, I thought it was over with the technical foul.
Yeah.
And I pulled it up now. It was 1:14 left to go. And I want to get your thoughts on this because I don't have a problem with the play that they called, but I thought Khan should have gotten the shot there at the end of the game because he was your best pure shooter. I didn't know. I mean, I don't have a problem losing with Flag getting the ball.
Right.
And but I just wonder. It's kind of like when Langdon got the last shot against UConn.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of thinking, I know Avery didn't play great that game, but Avery was the better, was probably the guy who should have gotten the ball because he could have taken somebody off the dribble in a way that Trajan couldn't really. I don't know if there was any thought about that afterwards or not.
You said the right thing. It was hard to argue with giving the ball to Flag. And that was
right.
I just think John was in his mind, like, I've got the best player in the country here. We're going to run this play. And I wasn't sitting on that side of the court. I was opposite for the bench, but I know there were media people that were on that side. And that's a good thing about the NCAA tournament is you have media on both sides. Some are right behind the bench. You can hear what they're saying. It's a great seat to have sometimes. And John basically said, we're going to run this play. We're going to win the ball game. like, this is it. We're going to do this. And they practiced it. And it was just the one time he just didn't make it. I mean, and that, if you think about it, that was the one Achilles heel for Cooper was those late situations, right? Get back to Clemson when he slipped and fell on the, court, and Kentucky early in the year in Atlanta, and then the Kansas game when Khan had the ball at the end of that one and got in the lane and jumped in the air and didn't have anybody to pass it to. So, you're right. Khan was really good at getting to the rim and finishing. Although, again, we just mentioned he didn't happen earlier, just a few minutes earlier in that game. But yeah, that's one that's good. That's going to leave a mark for a while, I think. And it's like you get to the final. You're right. You get to the final four. His third year, John's won 2 ACC titles and 75-80% of his games, and so it's hard to can't say he's not doing a good job, but I mean that one is where talk about missed opportunities.
Yeah, because the year before getting to the Elite Eight, I think surprised people.
Yeah.
It was a nice run, and they had a real good season his first year. And again, this was, I mean, 35-4, 19-1 in conference, regular season, and with Cooper was hurt, and they still won the ACC tournament.
Mm-hmm.
You can't complain, and I'm not complaining about the way the season ended. It was awful to watch the way it ended, but
Yeah.
it was a great season, and I think we should all be excited. I mean, you can't really complain about getting to a Final Four. I don't want to hear this championship or bust nonsense. I mean, if you're one of those fans, just leave. I mean, that if you believe that, Coach K only had 5 good seasons, and that's just absurd.
Right.
I
That's
mean,
right.
that's just absurd. That was a great season. We should all remember it fondly. But man, oh,
It's a gut punch. That end was a gut punch. There's no doubt about that. I've gotten to go into a lot of locker rooms after a lot of games, and those are always the toughest ones. And that one in particular was difficult because, and again, if I wasn't covering Duke in 1999, I'm sure it was the same because they knew they had a championship. They had a championship team, and they failed to execute. When it really mattered. When you do all your work toward that moment, and it got away from them. And boy, it was hard. It was hard.
yeah. I mean, Calhoun he coached the game of. I mean, he outcoached K in that game. I'll say that because they had swallowed up Elton, kept him in check for a long time, and there were no answers for that. With Voskel and one of the other guys, they had come down. That was a heck of a coaching job by Calhoun. But it just we needed to win 2 more games, man. I mean, just 2 more.
And then Houston had something similar to happen to them 2 nights later against Florida, right? So how it changes quickly. Kelvin Sampson was on top of the world. He outcoached Shire down the stretch and all that, and then it happened to him just 2 nights later.
Well, and you wonder too if, not to get political on here, but with Malawatch's status in the country and the announcement that got made
Yeah.
shortly after that game, visa holders from his home country, there's no telling how that would have played out in real time.
The tweet went out right before the start of the Florida Auburn game from Marco Rubio, who is a Florida graduate. So I'm not saying, I'm just saying, like, the timing was really interesting on that.
It was, and you wonder how it affected people, and you also wonder what would have happened if it had been Duke versus Florida in championship. And
Yeah.
Again, I'm not getting political on here, but I think if you follow the way that people manipulate news cycles and get attention through TV, it's not crazy to say that could have happened, and that's all I'm going to say about that. So,
I will say one thing. I'm gonna stay away from political too. I'm just telling you what was going on in the moment in the arena. Is that as this was going around, nobody really knew what was going on. People at Duke didn't really know what this meant because it was very cryptic. And honest to God, we didn't know if like ICE was going to show up in the locker room. I mean, anything is. We've seen what goes on, right? So, I mean, that it's very unusual to be in a situation like that where you don't know what's coming next. And that was really on our minds as media, and everybody in the arena that knew about this was like, what's going to happen here? And if Duke did win, what was going to happen the next day at practice? Like, were they going to show up then? Were they going to show up Monday night? Like, we didn't know.
well, and again, this is something that lawyers have to think about now, because in my home Commonwealth of Virginia, there have been ICE agents showing up at courthouses, and
Yep.
if you represent clients that you're concerned about, you have to think about that when you're scheduling them to be in person for hearings. It's something you have to think about. So I could definitely see where that in real time would cause a lot of pressure and a lot of concern
Right.
and just uncertainty. So it's
Yep.
unfortunate, but enough about that unpleasantness. Steve, one of the things I got to say, I always love it when you come on. I always learn a lot. I have a great time, and as always, you're going to get an open mic. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you and let you have an open mic.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Newsobserver.com is our website at the Raleigh News and Observer. Again, you won't find my writing as much there anymore, but you'll see I'm the sports editor, so I'm in charge of the whole department. And we're covering Duke State and Carolina, obviously extensively as they get ready to start a practice here. Um, Another project I'm working on. I don't have a title for it yet, but I've been contracted to write a Duke basketball history book. Um, so I've been working on that throughout the summer, and it's probably going to slated to come out next year. So it's maybe around the time of the March Madness next year. Hopefully, we can get it turned around by then. But so I'm enjoying that project. It's a kind of a timeline of the history of the program from 1905 when Wilbur Capcard became the first basketball coach at Duke and started the first game was against Wake Forest. Trinity, it wasn't Duke, it was Trinity against Wake. Anyway, all the way through Eddie Cameron, started the ACC, Dick Grote, everything. Art Heyman, signing with Carolina, flipping to Duke, changing the trajectory of the Duke program. Anyway, I've been my mind's been in the 50s and 60s a lot lately, so I'm learning about all this stuff. And then obviously the Coach K era, and now in Shire. So anyway, don't have a title for it yet. We're not that far along, but I will share that and give you all the information when it comes out. But that's a project I've been working on for a while, and it's a lot of fun. It's really a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it.
Well, I'm sure you're looking for notes, Steve. So let me give you one. As somebody who is 40+% into edits on a novel that I've been working on for about 2 years. I hope to have it done. I'm not going to say by the end of the year because I'm going to make an announcement about the podcast and we'll get into that. But I just checked online to make sure I was right. I'm at the Duke Colors site. Royal Blue. That could be a title. Just throwing it out there. That's one of the
Okay.
colors. I'm just throwing it out there. If you use it, you don't have to give me any credit. Just drop a mention in the acknowledgements or thanks
Okay.
section. Okay, if you go with
Absolutely.
that. All right.
Absolutely. That's a hell of an idea.
All right. Just throwing it out there. All right. So I just want to say that now, Steve. Again, thank you for coming on, folks. I do want to tell you about the podcast. We mentioned I'm moving offices. I have been very fortunate as an attorney. I grew up in a very, very small town, literally one stoplight. And I was instilled the importance of education. And I feel like I've tried to remember that and instill that in my kids. And going to law school, being a lawyer, I've been out, not on my own, but I've been a small business owner. This is going to be year 3. We're moving to a new location and we are very busy. And I'm very blessed, very fortunate. And just very lucky to be that busy. But that means there are demands on my time, which means I have less time for the podcast. So, since I enjoy having Steve on so much, and he got a promotion, and he is writing less and less about, well, not less and less, but he's no longer the Duke beat writer. I thought it was a good time to go ahead and share this. I'm not going to say the podcast is over. I'm not going to say the podcast is done, but the podcast is going to be very sporadic. Um, we've just been very fortunate at work, and Steve can tell you college is expensive. I got one going in 2 years, and then I got another who will be going in. I'm trying to do the math. 7 years. So I got 2 kids I got to pay for, and it ain't cheap. It ain't cheap. So I'm just running a little bit low on time to be able to focus on the podcast because, as Steve will tell you, it does take up a lot of time and it's just me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to reach back out to Lee Rodeo, try to get him back on, and I may do one, maybe two episodes during the season, maybe during those bye weeks. We'll see. And probably a recap. So it'll be very sporadic. It'll be very intermittent. I'm not saying it's over, but it's just going to be less common, less frequent. And I'm sorry about that, but I got to cut back on time. So, uh, I am still doing the Antiquity podcast, though. So check that out, the Classical Antiquity Side Quest. We're doing a lot of history stuff. We may have a Virginia Tech professor on soon. Just keep that in mind.
All
We're
right.
working on it.
Good tease.
But I do want to say to everybody who's listened, everybody who's emailed, everybody who has called, everybody who has come on as a guest, especially the repeat guests, this has been a lot of fun. I never thought I would get to interview Fred Goldsmith. I believe I did that twice on the podcast, and I never thought I would get to know some of the guys that I've gotten to know as well as I have. Randy Cuthbert is one guy. Chris Combs has been on the podcast. He and I have gotten to know each other pretty well, and there's just been a lot of guys. Lee, of course, that I've gotten to know, and it's been a lot. And I did check; it was twice with Coach Goldsmith. So never thought that would happen. Never thought I would have his phone number in my phone, but it's where we are. So it's been a blast, man.
You have done this podcast is terrific. I'm fortunate to get invited on several, and I love doing this one. I have a lot of respect for what you've done, and um, serving a niche audience, really, right? Do football doesn't have the attention span of the crowd audience of Duke basketball, obviously. So, but you've given people great information, great insight into the program, done a terrific job, and you've earned the right to you got to take care of you and yours, right, and do that. So it doesn't mean you're not going to be paying attention to Duke football. I know you're still going to be on top of everything. So
Well,
about that.
Well, thank you, Steve. My information's only as good as the guests we have on. That's for sure. Both my kids play sports, and we're busy with that, and that only goes on for so long. So you got to be around for it, and you run into a time crunch. But
Yep.
I'm going to be going to games. Got season tickets again this year, and I'm looking forward to getting down there and seeing everybody. And guys, thanks a lot for listening. Check us out, Bull City Coordinators. Is the website, bullcitycoordinators.com. You, of course, can call, leave messages. I'll still answer them. If you call and you've got questions, we will still answer them. So give us a call, 540-632-0160. Check us out on the socials. And as always, go Duke.